Who do you belong to? Where do you come from? Who sent you? Under whose authority are you operating? Under whose authority? Who gave you the power to do what you're doing? Who gave you the authority to do what you're doing? Who commissioned you? Who sent you? Of whose descent are you? Are you of the Vineyard lineage? Are you of the Calvary Chapel lineage? Are you of the Hillsong descendants? Are you of the Pentecostal descendants lineage? Are you possibly of the Rhema line or Rhema schooling? Who sent you? Who commissioned you? A very digging into your affairs, a very digging into the affairs of God, digging into the affairs of the Holy Spirit. The promissory note that I've been given is not good enough. The promissory note that I've been given, the promissory note that the Father has given, is not good enough. The promissory note that the Holy Spirit has given, through word of testimony, through word of mouth, is not enough. I haven't heard enough good things about you. Who sent you? Under whose authority are you operating? So much insecurity amongst leaders, insecurity amongst pastors, insecurity amongst ministers. Oh, I have to protect my flock, I have to protect my people in case Fred Claessens calls. Fred Claessens might request to do something. I don't know Fred Claessens, and I have to protect my flock. You understand? Who are you? What shoe size do you wear, and what colour underwear do you like to wear? Where do you hang out? What type of restaurants do you go to? All kinds of raddly-taddly ramifications. A very sidelining, a very side-tracking of the Holy Spirit. One pastor said to me, I said to him, why don't you please make an announcement from the front at your midweek meeting? Ask one of your congregants if any of them would consider putting me up, possibly, so that I could at least visit and attend one or two of your services. Oh no, they want a reference. They want a reference. So I gave him a reference. I gave the big man a reference. So the man calls, the associate pastor calls my reference. And I give them information. Oh, no, that's not good enough. No, that's not good enough to make an announcement from the front of the congregation after a service for anyone who'd like to volunteer assisting a fellow church member with some accommodation. That's not good enough. Now we require a second reference. So I turn around and I say to the pastor, why didn't you ask the Holy Spirit to direct you? Ask the Holy Spirit to direct you as to what you should do. Oh no, don't say that. Don't dare put the blame on the Holy Spirit. Don't dare put the Holy Spirit on the spot. I follow protocol. We follow protocol. Don't try me in the things of the Spirit. Don't test me in the things of the Spirit. I follow the book. A very standing in the way, very obstructing, very standing in the way of the things of the Spirit, the move of the Holy Spirit. Where are the days when people were able to rely on what the Holy Spirit was directing them to do within all fair judgment? Oh no, don't ask me to rely on the voice of the Spirit. Don't ask me to rely on the gifts of the Spirit. That's only operational for when I'm actually in office. When I'm out of office, everything goes out the window. A very standing in the way, a very obstruction to the very move of God at this time in the church. You can throw me all the law that you have. You can throw me all the law. You can throw me all the technicalities that you have. You can throw me all the sub-clauses and clauses that you have available. Without anyone to illuminate the law, without anybody to bring illumination to the law is dead. The law is dead without anyone that has without anyone that is able to bring illumination to the law. The law, the spiritual law that we have been left with, Christ has brought illumination to it. The Holy Spirit has been left with us to illuminate the word, to bring illumination to it. Without your laws and bylaws that you write down, without anyone to enforce it, without anyone to illuminate it and to enforce it, it means nothing than the paper that it is written on. It means nothing than the textbooks that it is written in, that it is printed in. I studied aviation law. I studied aviation law as one of my subjects when I was doing my private pilot's license. I studied aviation law as one of the subjects. All the clauses and sub-clauses and rules and regulations of the air, what you are and what you aren't allowed to do, even as a private pilot, lest you land yourself in trouble. Why? Why? Because you're using the same airspace as big commercial aircraft. Why? Because you're using the same airspace, you're using the same terrain, you're using the same locations as huge commercial airliners. You can't afford to have somebody entering airspace that doesn't know what they're doing. You cannot have someone entering commercial airspace that is going to be a hazard to 300 passengers that have just taken off from our international airport, and here comes John Kent in his little aircraft. Here comes John Kent in his light aircraft. Causes a major air disaster. You have to know the air law, the rules of the air. Can't expect the air traffic controller to tell you all the time what you need to know. Likewise, you can't expect Christians to tell you what you need to know the whole time. Oh, but you ought to know this. You ought to know these things. You, as a leader, you as pastors, you ought to know these things. You can't expect people to help you with this. You can't expect the gifts of the Spirit only to be operational when it suits you at a time of need. The Holy Spirit is omniscient, He's omnipresent, He's omnipotent, He's on call, He's on duty 24 hours a day, 24/7 He's on duty. Oh no, give me a reference. That's not good enough, give me another reference. Obstructing the work of the Holy Spirit because they are bound to the legal system, they are bound to law. Payroll pastors, payroll Christians. If someone gets put up in accommodation, for argument's sake, whatever the place, whatever the location, if an incident occurs, if a mishap occurs, the person having volunteered their services, they are accountable. They are volunteering. They accept the risks. Oh no. Please baby everybody, protect everybody. Take no risks. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. A very obstruction wherever you go, very blocking of the things of the Spirit, blocking of the things of God. How can we stop this? How can we block this? How can we block the voice of God, block the voice of the Holy Spirit? How can we bring an end to this? how can we twist and wangle the law to help and further our cause? Big shot pastors, big shot leaders, payrolls. God is getting ready. God is standing at the door of the very church at this time, at this hour. And he says, I want in. I want in. Do you understand me? And in the time of, if we read in Mark chapter 11 and verse 27, they came to Jesus with a very similar inquiry. They came to Jesus with a very similar dabbling. They came to Jesus with a very similar situation of trying to sort of like stir the pot, trying to sort of like dabble, trying to sort of like inquire as to who sent you? Who commissioned you with this authority? The very chief priests, the very leaders of the time. Very reminding of the circumstances today, very reminding of the situation today of the chief priests in our very day and age. Same situation. And I've travelled, not only in South Africa, but I've travelled, I'm not allowed to say internationally. I've travelled in the United States. A very similar situation with the chief priests inquiring of Jesus while he was walking in the temple, Mark chapter 11. And the chief priests and the teachers of the law and the elders came to him. By what authority are you doing these things? By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you the authority? Who gave you the right? And who gave you the authority to do this? Very same questioning by the high priest of that time, in Jesus' time, in Mark chapter 11. Questioning Christ, the Son of God. By what authority do you do these things? And Jesus replied, he said, I will ask you one question. Answer me and I will tell you by what authority I am doing these things. And then he goes on to say, John's baptism, was it from heaven or from men? Tell me. And after discussing it, go down to verse 33, it says, so they answered Jesus after discussing it and pondering over it, oh, we don't know. Now they don't know. They first want to know by what authority you're doing it. Just like today, the high priest, the chief priest. By what authority do you come? By what authority? Who gave you this power? Who gave you this authority? Who commissioned you? Which lineage are you from? Which school of thought are you from? And when they've pondered over it for a while, and then they finally come back to you, Jesus said, neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things. A very inquisition, a very inquiry into the very authority and the very office of the Son of God, the very office of Jesus, the Son of God. Oh, we better say nothing. Maybe we don't really have an answer to give you, because we don't know how to reply. Sorry, you caught us off guard. The very inability of the high priests, the very inability of the chief priests, the very inability of the leaders. Oh, give us the law. Give us the law. Where's the law? Where is it written? The law is dead without illumination. The law is dead without the illumination by the Holy Spirit, by God the Father. The law written is dead in textbooks without illumination by the legal system, by those knowledgeable. Oh no, what are we going to do now? There's no one to help us. Anybody seen a gift of the Holy Spirit around? Anybody seen a gift of the Spirit possibly around here somewhere? I need illumination on this decision. Do you have another reference? Do you have another a contact detail? Hang on a minute, I'm going to go and ask my assistant. Rebellion! Rebellion! Resistance against the very Holy Spirit. Resistance of man. Resistance to the things of the Spirit. And he whom resists the Spirit, he whom resists the very life force on the earth today, the very life force at work today within the face of the earth, the Holy Spirit will resist. The Holy Spirit will resist the very advancement, the very development of such. Oh no, we don't return any kind of communication. Or have you possibly heard the story about how long in advance we are booked up? We are booked up 6 months to a year to go to the United States 2 years in advance. Oh no, that's quite normal. That's quite normal. And I'm not allowed to say wherever I've travelled in the world. I have to be very specific, because someone once gave word to me through another individual, through a second party, that I'm not allowed to say wherever I've been in the world. I've got to be more specific. Do you understand when I speak about resistance to the move of the Holy Spirit in this very day and age that we are moving in? And I believe the time is coming. I believe that very time is coming right now, where God is getting ready to do a very overturning, a very overthrowing of the situation, a very overturning of the tables, a very overturning of the spiritual situation within the church right now at this time. And I'm so pleased, as one of many, to be on the front line of what God is doing right now in the church, what God is doing right now at this time spiritually, because it's an awakening like we've never seen before. Oh, but we have been praying for revival. We have been praying for revival for such a long time. The people still believe that God's going to send revival. You know, we're not in a season of revival. We are not in a season of revival. We are in a season of restoration, glorious restoration of the church, glorious manifestation of the very power of God, the very power of the Holy Spirit, the very illumination of the Word, the law of God, the very illumination of it. But you pastors, you leaders, you want to operate in commercial, spiritual airspace. You want to operate in commercial, spiritual airspace, and your law is dead. Your law is dead. There's no illumination of the law. There's no illumination of the things of the Spirit. There's no guidance by the things of the Spirit. It's all just written, printed knowledge. The time is coming, the era is coming, where God is saying, it's time for release. It's time for release of the things of the Spirit. I'm not going to be limited by pastors any longer. I'm not going to be limited by the wisdom of men any longer. God's not going to be limited any longer by the wisdom of men. He's not going to be limited by the constraints of man and the constraints of his very chief priests, his very high priests. Who sent you? chapter 11. Go read it for yourself. Go read it for yourself, Mark chapter 11. The authority of Jesus is questioned. The very authority of the Son of God, the very authority of the Son of God is questioned by the very chief priests of the time. And Jesus calmly replies, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things."